although Xiaoxing is still young. But suddenly, Xingling broke in with a bang. This scene frightened him and hurriedly tightened his mind. Wait until you can see the person by candlelight. He breathed a sigh of relief. However, the elf's eyes were as sharp as a loss at this time. I saw him crunch and close the door. Then he swaggered to the man. The master of the door. I'm going to address something very important now. With the man's wail rang out. The palms of the elves. Suddenly, an extremely pure internal force poured out. Don't open your mouth. You're suffering from internal injuries. If you don't treat it, you'll die. However, the owner of the door still wants to struggle. How could he not know the crux of the problem? But the treatment of internal injuries. In addition to using one's own luck to dredge the deranged meridians, the only way to do that is through others. Use the strong internal force to forcibly repair. But the internal injuries suffered by myself were too severe. Risks to be taken by rescuers. It will be more than 10 times more dangerous than normal. My own life. How can you be gracious to China? The heroes of the hidden door are going to take risks. It's just that the assistant hasn't been shouted yet. Was forcibly held down by Xingling. That's when he found out. I don't know when. The boy had already instilled internal force into himself. Meridians everywhere. I just shouted at myself. I'm afraid that I will immediately go crazy. However, what surprised him most was that pain in your own body. It gradually dissipated in the hands of this young man. This pure Dao Gate aura is mild and scorching. Just thinking about it. The voice of the teenager came unrealistically. Fortunately, it didn't hurt the foundation. Patience will soon be better. This scene made the master of the gate completely calm. Inject internal force into others, while still being able to speak. This uncanny control. I'm afraid that even the elders of ordinary sects can't do it. Huashan Shenlong Qingming. Who the hell is he? Next you have luck. Turn a big week. I've put together your wounds. Follow my lead. You can completely open up these meridians. It's just a kick in the door. In this way, Xingming looked at the master of the gate. His luck flowed like a river all over his body. Finally reunited in a dantian. With his luck, the risk has undoubtedly increased several times. Slightly worse fool. I'm afraid I'm going to be more traumatized. But now, time is limited. And for the sake of the master's body, it will be delayed any longer. I'm afraid it's going to collapse soon. So bear with me. I'll clean you up. So far, with the filth stacked in the man's body, they were forced out of the body together. Qingming gradually withdrew his aura. That's a completed week. But I didn't tell the doorman. To heal his internal wounds once and for all. It's like this big week. Now I'm going to repeat it to him 12 times. It's been a long night. The owner's house was glowing. Until Qingming retracted the internal force for the last time. The whole man was smoking. Wait until Qingming completely lets go. Feel the physical change for the door owner. It would make him feel like he was dreaming. The pain of the internal injuries is now completely unfelt. Even the strength seems to have increased a little. He shuddered and asked Qingming what was going on. What I got was a sentence that Huashan would remember. The kindness of the door owner to Huashan in the past few decades. We will not forget. So please be like this. It has always guarded the name of Huashan. Until the name of Huangman. Enjoy a day with us. Hearing this, the man had already burst into tears. Isn't that what he has been for so many years? The moment of your dreams. So he said in a trembling voice. I will definitely protect Huashan. It must be early the next morning. The sun is shining. But Qingming's eyes were full of doubts. Inside the house at this time, it's not just messy. Look at the appearance of scratching your ears and cheeks during the day. Even Xiaojia are all scolding themselves for being a waste. Obviously, the Mediterranean Sea is also just around the corner. To say the darkest of the whole room. It belongs to Lu Shigu's gloomy corner. But Qingming asked coldly, what are you doing? Look at their resentful eyes like little daughters-in-law. Qingming only found out. It seems to have stimulated them by itself. But Wudong unlocked the treasure map. During the day, I had to turn my head in embarrassment. Actually, he can't be blamed for that. It took a few months for a sect to solve it. Let the 4 of them break 100 million in one night. It's true that some of the powers are hard. But that's not the worst problem right now. If the Wu-Tang clan pours out, even the current Qingming is difficult to spread its hands and feet. And watch them take away the unilateral side of the mixed Yuan Dan. He was even more unwilling. Just now, although it is certain that the treasure map is not a fake. But he couldn't help it. Inzhong persuaded. Even as a last resort. Just a few of us. It won't be Wudong's opponent. So wait brother, what you just said is right. Of course, we alone are no match for Wudong. It's obvious that Qingming looks like this. Again thought of his most usual trick. And no wonder. Previously, Taibao was almost forgotten by this message. They can also make it known to the world. So, once the situation is opened, the soul will also have a chance to fish in troubled waters. Although, I still can't accept such a crazy approach during the day. But Inzhong thought about it. It does seem to work. After all, the Wudong faction is for us. It's just too big. But all the sects and factions of the world are coming at the same time. Hear this. Even Zhao Jie's brain has figured it out. Something like that. So during the day is a loss. It seems that this is the only way we can now have a chance. After a long day, he finally exhaled a breath of turbidity. But how do we get the word out? Just go out and hype it up. I'm afraid I'm not going to be taken for a fool. And we don't have time to spread the word. Hearing this, the green spirit already had an idea. He said, don't worry. I thought of it. A guy who can stand for us. Let's rest first. I'll go and I'll be back. Meanwhile, the other side. The news that Wu Zhan was seriously injured by Qingling was transmitted back to Wudong. And above the main hall, the head of contemporary Wudong is a real person. It didn't seem like a surprise. 2 years ago, he can sweep Zhongnan as a disciple of 3 generations. Second-generation disciples. It's been so long. It is indeed understandable to be able to defeat Wu Zhan. But Jin Xian doesn't understand. Where does this kind of thing make sense? With the guidance of the master. That's when he understood. Wudong's martial arts pay attention to accumulation. Before one's own internal force has reached a certain level. Naturally, it is much weaker than other famous families. But Jin Xian, do you know why I'm saying this? I'm telling you. The reason why we need medicine immortals. Hear this. Jin Hyun was so nervous that he didn't even dare to breathe. He understood. I sent it away by myself. It could be the whole Wudong. The key to the door to a new world. Fortunately, the head has no intention of approaching. Because even he couldn't think of it. Huashan Shilong. It's strong enough to defeat Wu Zhan. So according to your example, what kind of person is that person? However, Jin Hyun is not sure. The only thing that is certain is, that man is an absolute monster. The disciple and he are not at all people of the same world. Hearing this false way is also unanimous. In terms of Zheng Xuan's child's qualifications and strength, it's a lot better than when it was undocumented. Even he thinks Hua. Is the mountain dragon unattainable? Thinking of this master, the style of painting changed. He asked Jin Hyun to prepare. Travel to Nanyang. This time, the elders will personally lead the team. They will. Estimated the child known as Huashan Shenlong. I'm definitely still spinning around for the group that didn't get to the treasure atlas. So they should be waiting for us to come over. Waiting for an opportunity to snatch the unilateral side. Dazzle, I think you know what I mean. The mistakes you make are up to you. Although I can roughly guess the mind of the master. But for the sake of the Wudong faction selection, it's not as good as it gets. And the other side. Luoyang is not far from Nanyang. The crowd was bustling. Even the beggars seemed to be looking very bright. It's just that. A piece of news quickly reached the beggar Changlong. Just yesterday, the defeat of Wudong by the Huashan disciples is too weird. But this matter is blessed by Qingming. It's almost everyone who knows about it. Naturally, it can't escape the ears and eyes of the beggars. Soon this matter was sent to the Luoyang rudder. However, the man who received the message was clearly unlucky. He didn't understand. This kind of sect that has been in decline for 100 years, even if it has improved in recent years. How can it be with today's #1 Sword Gate Wudong? On a par, not to mention defeating them. It's just that he subconsciously glanced at it. A message from Nanyang. Thick stack. He couldn't help but look at it twice. This was a surprise to find. All of this news turned out to be all one thing. Huanmin E. Wudong was defeated, evacuated from the gym, and then withdrew from the South Seas. Although the number of Wudong is large, still helpless. The more he looked at it, the more frightened he became. So many people. The caliber is so unified. Mo is not Huashan after Zhongnan. Even Wudong was folded in their hands. This is the most prestigious gang of 9 factions in martial arts. The comeback of Huashan. I'm afraid it's going to get interesting. But what the hell is this? Someone actually saw the disciples in Wudong. Clean. Seeing that Wu Zhan was put in the car and dragged back to the Wudong faction. This is not ridiculous to describe. He was thinking. There was a commotion outside. The man just wanted to reprimand. But he heard the door of his house creak. Was pushed into slack. Looking at the outfit of the man in the room. And the stick he held slowly. Qingming is very happy. This should be the helmsman of the beggar gang in Luoyang. And I saw him striding near. And the 2 disciples behind him seemed to be useless. This will look at Qingming with a solemn expression. Come on, I've got a big deal here. He didn't mind the mess that the beggars had always had. Pa's life chatted with him about the purpose of this trip. But no one could have listened immediately. The gibberish of a trespasser. Even if the man has already guessed the identity of the other party. This neuropathy in front of me. It is probably the Qingling known as the Huashan Divine Dragon. Here are the beggars. It's not a bazaar. Run here to sell things. He also demolished Lao Tzu's door. Isn't this pure and unpleasant? Xiaoxia, Ihong Dagwang looks very good at bullying, right? Facing Min's doubts. Instead, the lime looked indifferent. Since the beggars have such a large piece of cake, don't be. and this thing is so precious. So, I have to look for the nearest lower human distribution. Hear this. Hong Daguang felt more and more confused. This guy came to the beggars on the front foot. The hind foot went to find woman. So it seems. He should be very clear. What kind of place is the beggars? But Qingming looks like he is underbeaten. Let him change his mouth now as like a stalk in his throat. If you miss something big because of your own negligence, the day of the helmsman himself, I'm afraid it's the end of it. In this way, he's still stubbornly left to clean up. Just when you see the treasure map, with his eyesight, he knew it right away. This thing is anything but ordinary. However, when he trembled and wanted to pick it up, was interrupted by a snap from Qingming. Hong Daguang covered his smoking palm. Surprise in his eyes almost overflowed. He's an elder of the beggar gang. Just that moment. I didn't even see Qingming's movements at all. There are a lot of thoughts. That's when I tightened my mind. So what exactly is this? The disciple who originally pricked up his ears outside the room for a while. It's going to be a little less reserved. Qingming looked a little impatient. After all, the reason why the beggars can become the core of the 9 factions and 1 gang. It is because of them that they are in the world. Unparalleled intelligence power. There are several concubines outside the official and noble. Went down to the next door. Wangshen let out a few farts at night. As long as you want, they can all find the answer for you. And this is a treasure map of the tomb of the prophet. This is for the whole beggars. Undoubtedly, it is another major event that has swept the rivers and lakes. Qingming is clear. If this treasure map falls into the hands of the beggars, on a day, the whole rivers and lakes will by times spring from them. And crazy and magnificent. He also seemed to understand the current situation. The reason why this guy in front of him gave up on this treasure map for himself and do such a unique thing. I'm afraid it's the plank road. Darkness Chinsong. But it's terrible. Even knowing these things, it can only be done according to his ideas. He can come up with such a naked conspiracy. This man is too dangerous. I want to come for a while. Maybe Huashanjun. He will be pulled back to the peak of 100 years ago. It's just that although he is very smart, but after all, he's still a hairy boy. The value of this information. How much more could he know? Thereupon, Chen Daguang slyly affirmed the value of the treasure map. Later, he used the original owner to be the Wudong faction. The total number of buyers will offend this day with scruples. Under the first sword gate and sharply reduced. Plus whether the treasure map can be cracked in a short time. It is also a risk that the beggars need to take. But in view of the reputation of the young man, who imitates the Huashan Divan dragon, let's not doubt the authenticity of this treasure map. So we can finally pay 120,000 taels to buy this picture. He muttered 120,000 taels of words in his mouth. Hong Daguang was very proud. After all, this number is for a sect. It's a lot of money. This is also the beggars are willing to do otherwise. However, he was not finished speaking. I saw Qingming get up and wanted to leave. Hong Daguang was anxious. He would never have thought of it. This guy will choose to just flip the table and leave. But this information is inevitable for the beggars. But even if he repeatedly raised the price, in exchange, the young man couldn't bear to congratulate him. With a loud bang, Hong Daguang's house was kicked by Qingming. He said, "You stinky beggars, rich and unrivaled country. It tricked me into the head. Don't say 200,000 taels." I saw Qingming put out 3 fingers. Continue to 3 million taels to settle at a time. Below that number, nothing to talk about. When Tianxiang once said that the world is very cold, friendship is expensive and cheap, and these words were placed in the first sword gate in the world in the past. The same applies. The decline of Huashan. So that Xuanzi was witnessed with his own eyes. The people I once trusted left indifferently one by one. I have also faced my brothers and sisters who are like family countless times. Turn your back on the teacher. In the midst of this turbulence, they don't even have time to take care of their own martial arts. So now after they go down the mountain, Xiansong is even more restless every day. Those children are the hope of him and the whole of Huashan. Although he did not mention his concerns. But as his junior brother, why don't the two of them understand the mind of the master? It's just that the financial pavilion master is more upright. After all, he's 2. I'm worried that those children will have an accident with Shang Wudong. Facing the relief of the Xuansheng junior brother, he didn't find it useful at all. Brother, those children are different from us, aren't they? With their strength, it's going to be all right. Speaking of this, the master of the financial pavilion felt that there was nothing wrong. Yes, they have to live with fine clothes and food. We must not live as poor as we do. As for the fame stuff, I really don't care. I only hope that they will not be looked down upon by the world. I was satisfied, and Xuanzang understands the thoughts of his junior disciples. Just how they are. It can also be used as nourishment for children. Enough is enough. He was thinking. Yun Lian suddenly ran over. It turned out that he had received a message from the Galactic Business Group. That's when I rushed to report. The letter said that the disciples of Huashan and the disciples of Wudong, on behalf of the 2 families, 5 doors were competed. As a result, Huashan won completely, and from the gym also left Nanyang. Wine Gate is unharmed, and it has been put in order. Discipleship has resumed. And this is the news that the young group master has confirmed many times. Absolutely no moisture. Hearing this, Xuanzong almost stumbled again. They actually really won Wudong. It's remarkable. Maybe someday, Huashan will once again be among the 9 factions. Although this news, it wasn't passed down from them to the young master. But count the days. I guess there will be 3 more days. They should be back too. At this point, the master of the financial pavilion did not wait for the head to speak. I'm going to get ready. Welcome the children who have returned from hard work. Don't worry, I'll make sure it's in place. Seeing this, Xinshang didn't say anything. The senior brother in charge can also let go of that worry. Although, they also think it's quite miraculous that Qingling didn't get into trouble. Really, that kid still knows how to be restrained when he's out of the house. But what they don't know is, at this time, the beggars helped Luoyang. Divisional. The helmsman's eyes were full of grief at this time. The treasure map in Qingling's hand. The opening is 3 million taels of silver. Not to mention that this will not be able to take out so much money in the rudder. Even if you take it out, it can't be so easy on the top. It should be traded at this price. So, do you do this business or not? When he was stupid, he saw Hong Dagwang stretch out 2 fingers. How about 2 million taels? Young man, you need to know. There are people in the world today who can come up with that number. You can count it on your fingers. And if you can't accept this price, then you can't do this business. Even if you try to find the afternoon door, it's useless. They don't say it's 2 million. Even if it is 1 million taels, it may not be able to get it. So you have to think it through. But he said so. But in my heart, I always feel that this kid is very evil. He didn't understand either. This guy knows the value of this thing. Or is it simply a sky-high asking price? But there's no denying it. The valuation of this thing in my heart. It's exactly 3 million taels. It's just that he is both arrogant and easy. It's annoying to look at. It's like if I don't say yes, he would immediately turn around and look for the door. And Qingming heard this. He didn't bother to continue pestering. So he put away the treasure map and slowly got up. Hong Dagwang thought he was repeating his old tricks again. It still looks confident. Can be a second. Qingming told him. I plan to go to the Wuhan branch of the beggar gang. Through this, Hong Dagwang is fierce and fierce. The Wuhan rudder is the territory of 9 fingers. If he just doesn't make it happen, that's it. But if it's given to 9 toes, I'm afraid that the time comes. The elders must be dissatisfied with Luoyang's rudder. He panicked when he thought of this. Only then did the price of 3 million taels be suddenly printed. He didn't lose anything anyway. However, Qingling took this snack. He took a look at it thoroughly. Did I say sell it for 3 million? Now I'm going to collect 3.5 million taels. It's obvious that Hong Dagwang is stupid. But this thing is in Qingling's hands after all. Isn't the price also a matter of his words? And for the price, it's going to go up again. Now it's 3.8 million. Hong Dagwang is really anxious. I'm afraid that Qingling will raise the price again. Only then did he hurriedly shout that he paid 3.8 million to buy yuan. The atmosphere between the two fell silent all of a sudden. Half a day, he clapped his hands with the lime. You've made a wise decision. That's it. Hong Dagwang took out the existing 1 million in Luoyang. Borrowed another 2.8 million from a mainland bank. It's very comfortable to make this little money addicted. If I find out this thing is fake, or maybe you're playing some trick on me. My beggars have disciples all over the world. However, he was not finished. Qingming interrupted Dao, and the picture must be true. Because this treasure map Wudong has been unlocked. So you hurry up and go. They should have already set out to dig the sword mound. I didn't lie to you. That's it. Hong Dagwang has only been able to determine the authenticity of the treasure map. Gradually, it was completely replaced by shock, until the disciple who was running errands on the side looked at him. Only then did he realize that he looked like a dead man. Grab that stinky boy. Philao Bing. This beggar gang disciple. It's also the first time I've seen such a grumpy helm master. Huashan Shalong dares to play me. I'm going to let him know. Dare to provoke the beggars. No, it's someone who dares to provoke me, Hong Dagwang. What the hell is going on? After a while, the disciples came to report again. The helmsman had already sent some reinforcements. Although the number of people that can be dispatched is relatively limited at the moment. But Hong Dagwang knows. Now the most important thing is, hurry up and have someone come over and copy this treasure map. This treasure map must be sold as much as possible immediately. Even the process of screening buyers. It also has to be omitted. And let me figure out the whereabouts of Huashan Shanlong. That's how the Nanyang boundary. It was soon filled with a steady stream of people. Although in recent years, the news of the sword mound has been frequent. But this time the source was sent by the beggars. So much so that many famous bigwigs. They all left behind what they were doing. Almost the entire Nanyang is occupied by people in the martial arts. It was also seen by the Wudong disciples. Jinchuan, you said that the treasure map was robbed for only 3 days. There are so many people gathered here today. Is this reasonable? Hear the Void Elder's question. He didn't dare to slack off. But it's obvious. Should be. The news that Huashan saved the sword mound somewhere in Nanyang. Spread the word. Let's look at the current situation. Elder Void immediately understood Huashan's intentions. It seems that they made this move. It's to prevent me Wudong from entering the sword mound alone. It's really sinister. It's just that these people will flock to the South Seas. This means that no one has solved the mystery of the treasure map yet. And it's obvious. They have observed that we are coming. But everyone is pretending not to find out. We want to come. It's just waiting for us to act first. But we're a Wu-Tang clan. Every disciple. All have strength that they can't match. There is no place in the world where we want to set foot. I don't think anyone can stop it. Therefore, the disciples immediately set off towards the sword shrine. Soon everyone will understand. We did it step by step, just to avoid trouble. I'm not really afraid of them. Meanwhile, inside the Huang Gate, Hong Daguang finally found the location of Qingling. And during the day, he also recognized the Comer. That was the helmsman of the Luoyang rudder. I saw him sigh a long sigh. God knows what happened to that guy. And it's obvious. The man didn't have the slightest kindness in his eyes when he looked at Qingling. Actually, that's right. Hong Daguang. This will really lose his temper. Now the martial arts people gathered in Nanyang. More than the locals who live here. All these 8 achievements come from this guy's calculations. Although I am angry. But now he also wants to know. This Huashan Divine Dragon. And what are the plans in this matter? However, Qingming is not so kind. I'm just going to watch the fun. After all, I made so much money. What else is there to rush about? Well, look at Hong Daguang's appearance. If it weren't for the strength that the guy showed before, this will say that Qingming will be beaten first. Think about it. This guy came here a day ago with money. It is not hidden. Speaking of which, I can't do anything now. And Wuda is about to set off for the sword mount. With these 2 people for temporary reinforcements. Don't talk about Wudong. Even those who follow the rumors. I can't deal with it. And so it goes. If I want to enter the sword shrine. In the end, this guy is the only one to rely on. Thinking of this, Hong Daguang finally sighed. Providence mixed people. Although, this guy is not quite in his right mind. But to say that he was not prepared, I don't think it's going to make this happen. That would be my last hope. And Qingming will chew the barbecue. Glanced at him too. Why, do you want a drink? This guy still has the heart to drink. Does he even know it? Now the martial arts people outside. Almost all of them have become vicious dogs. Swarming. What a bunch of big fools. Contribute money and effort. I don't understand it. Okay. These words finally judged the last shred of the man's sanity. Hong Daguang could no longer contain his anger. Stinky boy. Aren't you going to take the mixed yuan dan? You are like this now. Isn't it also making wedding dresses for others? It's just that he didn't finish his words. Lu Shi did not appear suddenly. Behind the 2 of them, I have to say that he is elusive. Even Hong Daguang was obviously frightened. The Wu-Tang clan acted. As soon as it closed, I heard a clang. Mind is happy. Senior brothers and uncles. Let's go like this. The man hadn't reacted yet. The 5 had vanished in place. He woke up suddenly. Yelled at what he was doing. Hurry up and chase it. Damn, you have to keep up with those people in Huashan. Otherwise, he would really lose his wife and soldiers this time. Father, what's going on? Heard Xiao Xing's words. The door owner was also a little confused. But now he doesn't dare to make any decisions. I had to rejoice. Maybe they have their own agendas. Soon the Wudong faction left Nanyang City. They are as fast as they can. Go to the location of the sword shrine. But here's the surprise. The man who tracked them behind them. It's coming at a breakneck pace. Originally thought that they would have some scruples about Wudong. But now it seems. News of the medicine fairy made them determined to openly oppose Wudong. That being the case, you take someone to get rid of those guys. That's it. The Wudong sect's generation of disciples slammed into shape. What greeted was a dense crowd of martial arts people. And they don't seem to say much. Soon, a series of roars dispersed from the forest. Understand that it is now suppressed by force. Would be the most effective solution. After all, people who are blinded by greed. Good words will only lead to greater sacrifices. That's it. They went straight to the place marked on the map. It's just that this scene makes the void a little positive. A large forest. Only here is empty. If you don't usually have a shooting star passing by, it may just seem a little strange. But if you come here with suspicions, I'm afraid that when I thought of this, Susan immediately waved his hand. Immediately, all the disciples dispersed. Each began to look for the entrance to the sword shrine. And the way they search is very simple. Carpet with a long sword to explore the strange beneath the surface. This open space is large. But soon there was a slight click. Susan was keenly aware of the abnormality. So without saying a word, he drew his sword and rushed towards him. A sword pierced into the blade. The buzzing sound made the corners of his mouth uncontrollable. Here it is. Dispelled gradually. Internal forces are rushing to fitness. Suddenly, the ground around it seemed to be boiling and began to agitate. Disciples who were a little closer. The tremor from the soles of the feet can be clearly felt. In the middle of the day, the internal force injected with the dispersion became more and more majestic. I saw him twist his sword violently. When unplugged again, the surrounding ground immediately turned like a river and a sea. A large amount of soft and terrifying internal force poured out. With the ethereal, exaggerated sword, chi erupted further. Suddenly, large clouds of dust flew up like muddy water. A huge pit, and a huge iron door. It appeared in his field of vision. Sure enough, I found it. It is the gate of the sword mount. Meanwhile, a generation of disciples has been defeated one after another. A large number of martial arts people. I gradually saw the scene in the clearing. The Wu-Tang clan seems to have found something over there. Looks like they found it. The man who suddenly rushed to the front suddenly woke up. Rushing over, they found the entrance to the sword shrine. It's clear that this shouting make almost all the eyes in the eyes. It's all glowing green. They rushed towards the sword mound like crazy. Soon broke through the barriers of a generation of disciples. However, just as the group was about to disperse the elders, there was not the slightest panic in his eyes. As the words came out of his mouth, the words slowly came out. The next second, everyone's weapons were immediately shattered by one person in an instant. He clenched the hilt of his sword for only a moment, and immediately they turned their back. Summarily executed. The man acted as if nothing had happened. Looking back at the continuation, "Senior brother, these people are menacing. It was trickier than I expected. A bunch of nobody to buy time. Wait until I get my membership list. Immediately retreat." Susan looked at the door again. It's obvious. This door is not something these people can pry. So he asked his disciples to come out first. You must know that even the sword chi just now, none of them could damage the door in the slightest. It can be seen that this is not an ordinary iron door. Case. Then I don't need sword energy. Just use a sword to break it. That's it. Susan concentrates the internal forces condensed into steel on the sword body. I heard a few loud bangs. This door is really like tofu. He cut it into vertical pieces. However, at the moment when the gate was destroyed, he seemed to have discovered something. A fierce spirit. Immediately leaped backwards. It turned out that behind the door was a deep pit that was vertical downward. And it's really almost impossible to see the bottom at a glance. This scene made him sigh. If we just broke in, I'm afraid I'll fall into it unprepared. If I want to get the mixed yuan dan, do you have to jump into this black hole? It's really sinister. But now we have a hard time riding the tiger. Those disciples. It's impossible to stop those red-eyed lunatics all the time. Shiyuan, I'm going to take the lead. You escorted Wu Ran and the other disciples over. For their royal highness. The rest of the people followed me. That's it. Although he didn't know what exactly was down there. But even there is darkness that devours light. And don't try to stop us. Meanwhile, a Wudong disciple along with a towering tree. Someone bombarded near the entrance. He was convinced. The reckless man in the accumulating mansion is so strong. And look at the way he looks. It doesn't seem to take Wudong seriously. I don't understand why it's so big. More wisdom is forward. It's so fast. This blow is obvious. He was no longer powerless to parry or dodge. The shadow of death gradually gripped the man's sight. I heard a clang. Elder Chu Yuan suddenly appeared and caught this one. However, Mo Huai didn't seem to notice the weirdness of this scene. Such a small body for a man can catch the one he poured his internal strength into so easily. It also shows the strength of the other party. It's not as simple as it seems. And what they didn't notice was the edge of the forest at this time. Several people with the poisonous hand. Is smiling at the scene in front of him. It was clear that they were planning to take advantage of the fisherman. It's just that the man didn't find out. Several figures suddenly appeared behind him. When he realized, it seems that someone came later than them. His face has been cleared. The foundation of the punch flew out. That's it. The abacus of the 3-5 poisonous hands has not yet begun. That's the end of it. However, at this time, Mo Huai had already killed his eyes. For them, the charm of the mixed yuan dan, it has long transcended any worldly morality. As for Chu Yuan, several times to dissuade, the young failed to awaken even a trace of his senses. Seeing this, Chu Yuan finally did not stay any longer. A longsword that was originally resolute. At this time, it was like an indomitable stream of water in his hands. At the moment when the giant axe swung it, all the strength is like a stone sinking into the sea. So far, he still hasn't been able to wake up. Just when he wants to attack again, Chu Yuan had already come behind him. It's just a critical hit. Mo Huai was immediately affected by this domineering force. Fly away, and the towering trees that were originally in the forest. At this time, he also broke the tree. The scene was too much of a movement. So much so that almost everyone was stunned. Left. Only Elder Chu Yuan's godlike figure. Wu Ran, you take the rest of the disciples into the sword shrine. After I came to break it, the people here listened to me. This is the place where my Wudong immortal war. But if they want to pursue them, or maybe you want to step into the source of the sword shrine, you'll have to ask me first. The sword of Wudong. As long as you have self-confidence, can beat me. I have to say, the momentum of the world's first sword sect elder. It really took them out of their original madness. Hold back a little. However, not all the people in the rivers and lakes are afraid of his strength. The three demons are one of them. You must know that the owner of the sword species is to capture the sword without a trace. Yu Wudong just discovered it a little earlier. That's what I want to do to get everyone away. Doesn't it make the world laugh at it? Thou shalt bow down with the sword of Deluo. Similarly, there is some frustration in the preface of the negative sword. The two of them alone would have been hard to resist. He really didn't expect it. In such a short period of time, it can attract so many guys who have been famous for a long time. And it's terrible. They didn't seem to be intent on focusing on themselves. Instead, it was to encourage the martial arts people present. So, there was still some chaos in the battle. It quickly becomes one-sided. So far, Shi Yuan really doesn't have a good way. I had to spread the momentum. I've warned you of the threat. To enter the tomb, you have to beat me first. In this way, the Luojian is no longer verbose. When one stepped forward, he didn't know. At this time, the Wudong disciples had already stepped into the sword mound, and at the same time that the sword Shi of the Void Yuan kicked up the dust. But he jumped out, straight to the entrance. When the crowd sees clearly, he's long gone. It was clear that he had escaped. But it made the emotions of the martial arts people even more intense. In order to catch up with Wudong first, again the blade in the hand, swing towards the surroundings. Fortunately, the three demons don't seem to have any plans. There was an immediate conflict with Tufu. The two just looked at each other, immediately understood the other parties. Mind to them. The battlefield should be left in the last place to win the order. However, outside the sword mound at this time, it has long become a human purgatory with ghosts and ghosts. In order to increase the likelihood of obtaining the mixed Yuan pill for yourself, they have taken everyone but themselves. Treat him as an enemy. Everyone looks like the one who stands in my way dies. This also made Qing Ling, who had just arrived here, a little surprised. I didn't expect to attract so many people. But forget it. We also rush. It's bitter. Loves books during the day. The whole person looks like he is on a thief ship. But now they can only cheer up 12 points. After all, this is not a sect. The slightest mistake could cost you your life. If you don't want to die, get out of the way. In order to enter the ancient tomb of the Mes Immortals, this is the sword and sword shadow of several disciples of Huashan. I have to say, if it weren't for Qingming's combat power against the sky, in this battle situation where you can stab several people with your eyes closed, any point is taken lightly. You can make them powerful and know where to go. Make a hate for this. Obviously, although most of the combat power of the people here, they have a big gap, but they really fought. This kind of momentum that can kill you at a glance. For these wild heroes, it seems more sophisticated. And in the film, this will finally be noticed. Those guys who were shocked by the green spirit before, now it's getting its eye on them. The current situation, it's just because there is a green spirit in front of you. That's why I didn't find out. We are already in purgatory of fighting each other. It's obvious. The consciousness in the film is the first to feel this sense of oppression. But fortunately, it didn't take long. Qing Ling had already rushed to the entrance with them. However, Hong Daguang suddenly burst into a loud shout, interrupted his steps. You bastard. If you want to reap the profits, you have to take me with you. Hearing this, Qing Ling was also speechless for a while. Sky, how did you blatantly sell yourself? Actually, it's no wonder. Hong Daguang was very helpless in his heart. Their beggar gang disciples are all over the Xinzhou continent. But on the foundation of Kung Fu, there's really no way to compare with the disciples of the Ninth Faction. And because of this, most of them had lost their strength by the time they arrived. Ask them to charge now. It's no different from a meat bun stuffed into a dog's mouth. However, just give up the opportunity of the sword shrine. He was reluctant. At this time, there was a sudden loud noise from the crowd in front of them. Look up. Qing Ling has already been killed. Why are you stunned? There's no bargain for you to pick up when you're there. Seeing this Hong Daguang, he was also stunned. But he quickly reacted. It's just that the beggars will be physically exhausted. With the cover of Qing Ling alone, I want to break through the sword of this group of savages. I'm afraid it's harder than climbing to the sky. This will be a little helpless. A dodge rushed towards Hong Daguang and his party. Under the innocent gaze of the little beggars. Qingming, a pickup, is a slam throw. Hong Daguang was stupid when he saw this scene. Should it be said or not? Got the location. Qingming's strength is still very stable. That's how he carried it. The disciples of the beggar gang were all thrown out in an instant. Finally, there is Hong Daguang. Just look at his expression. It's clear that we haven't gotten out of the shock yet. But Qingming doesn't care about those. It was all over, and he withdrew his best efforts afterwards. Oh, there may be some people who can use it in the future. But the soldiers are fast. There's no benefit to staying here. Thinking of this, he was another dodge. And landing again. We've come to the entrance. Everyone's full today. Please invite you on early on another day. Then the boy jumped backwards. Up to the top of the opening. There was a loud thud of air being trampled. Qingming has already been carried. A little plum blossom entered the building. That's it. The entrance to the ancient tomb of the Medicine Immortal was easily destroyed by him. And the group that entered the ancient tomb one step earlier. This will also run into some trouble. Ghostcry 3 kills. Was originally a well-known bully in the rivers and lakes. Into the building. They weren't going to be in the company of these little kids. See them like this. During the day, they had to fight. Although he can't be sure either. Now yourself. Can you win this famous few people? But he was thinking. Suddenly, a loud bang came from the side of the 3 people. Micromeasurement of Min's eyeballs. Own brothers. Was stepped on by a teenager like this. These are some of these things. Who are you? Forget it, it doesn't matter anyway. Let's beat me up first. That's it. Everyone looked at the constant clanging sound behind them. It was a dry word in my heart. This ghost cried 3 kills in the Hunan area. But it is more fearsome than the tiger. Well, maybe in the eyes of this guy. The standard of looking at the opponent is a bit too big for ordinary people. What a monster. Looking at the man who had been beaten into a lump of flesh. There is also some sympathy for them during the day. After all, Qingming's fist. No one wants to be taken a second time. And I can't remember how many beatings I took in the mountains. That's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Have you ever seen the guy who named his tomb? It's obvious that Xiao Zhe's brain is a little insufficient. But Yin Zhong soon discovered the problem. If it is said, this is the sword without a trace to name his tomb building. And then it spread it out again. So what would be his purpose? Seeing this, the heart also nodded. One thing is certain, though. Whether this is the tomb to be lifted or not. Don't let your guard down. This place is definitely not ordinary. And Hong Daguang was worried. They may not be able to cope well with this point later. Service to the situation. But he wanted to find more people to join forces. Let's explore the proposal of the sword shrine first. Was laughed at by Qingming. They're the last to come in. Guy with a bit of a brain. I'm afraid we've already joined forces at this point. The rest are probably some loners. And Wudong seized the opportunity. I think most of them. In order to deal with these non-factions. A veritable powerhouse in a gang. Cooperation has already begun. Come to think of them as death. Will also bite off a piece of meat in Wudong. Thinking of this, Qingming's heart has already blossomed. Hong Daguang suddenly had a feeling. It's not everything. It's all going according to this guy's plan. Huashan Shenlong. I don't know what you're going to do. But if they find the mixed yuan pill first, I'm afraid that's the end of it. And this is just as clear. So let's go. By the way, why are you still following me? I've grown so big. I really haven't heard of anything a beggar can do to help. You can pass on some information and so on. Think about it. That doesn't seem to be a bad thing. And sir, the guy who punched me when I just woke up. Uncle, you're the helmsman of the beggar gang, right? So what is your position in the whole beggar gang? Hearing this, Hong Daguang suddenly came to his senses. To know in the whole beggars. A beggar of higher status than him. No more than 100 people died. Let's put it this way. Like a generation of disciples. He could move his toes and point at them. Here the spirit of this clarity also comes. You can follow me. There is a little beggar named Zhongba in the Wuhan branch. Wait to get out. Bring him to me. I have a kindness with him and I haven't repaid it. That's it. The group walked slowly towards the depths of the ancient tomb. And here, because it is inlaid with many night pearls the size of goose eggs, it's much brighter than expected. That's it. The wealth of the medicine fairy. The force is unimaginable. Just thinking about it. Hong Daguang suddenly felt that this place had become much darker. Look up. Qingming is like a bandit. Collect the beads. He realized that this would be like a creeper in his hands. It is necessary to pluck the hair. It doesn't seem to be in a hurry at all. Did the guy in front find the mixed yuan dan? Thinking of this, Hong Daguang suddenly stirred a spirit. Could it be that he can sense Wudong's movements here? Although I could also vaguely feel that there was a group of people in front of me. It's vague. Look at what this guy looks like. He clearly felt it. The presence of the group of guys in front. But it's such a little ghost. Is it really that strong? Uncle need to know. The group came down first. That's how easy it is for us to move forward. You get the idea. At this point, problems have also been found in the film. The passage here is getting narrower and narrower. It could have accommodated 5 strong men side by side. Now it's crowded. And from just now, it's always a bad smell. The first reaction was bloodshed. The smell is bloody. Then the people were silent. The uneasiness. It gradually permeated the hearts of Huashan and his disciples. Soon everyone was relieved. Qingming, what the hell is going on? Compared to Xiaojia, in the movie, even during the day, he was a little stunned. Blood from the corners of these people's mouths. Eerily black. It's clear that it's all poisonous. Looks like they've fallen for the trap here. You see, these people are densely packed with many fine needles on their bodies, and it should shoot from all directions. I was also a little shocked to see this Hong Daguang. I can't think of a medicine fairy who is famous for his benevolence and righteousness all his life. It will be in his own tomb. Such a vicious trap was laid. Let's go. If you stay here, you will probably be poisoned. And from now on, don't mess around with anything around you. Remember, this is the rivers and lakes. Here, the name of Huashan can't protect us. Although I don't know what kind of person Yao Xian is. But one thing is for sure. Over here, it's definitely not just a storehouse for storing treasures. As for the purpose of laying these traps, thinking about it, it will also determine the danger of this tomb visit. The mind is thinking. In a trance, a ghostly light overhead attracted Hong Daguang. When a few people looked back, the guy had climbed onto the roof. Click. Just put the night pearl that emits a red light. Hold out. What the hell are you doing? I'm not saying that. Don't just touch the weird stuff here. It's Qingling who hasn't finished scolding yet. The whole of Cooper's trembled. This scene also made Hong Daguang a little stunned. It wouldn't be so unlucky. The Huashan disciples entered the medicine immortal sword tomb as they wished. Can be along the way. Qingling chiseled and chiseled. The money is a lot of money. Made Hong Daguang, who was originally a beggar, obviously a little envious. This will see the pearl of the night glowing red. His eyes were green. However, what he didn't expect was this. Just because of this move, the hug they were in began to tremble violently. Seeing that it is about to collapse. Hell, my words are so clear. Not listening. How did you spend so long on the rivers and lakes? I didn't get killed by myself. Qingming scolded him. Hong Daguang was also stunned in his heart. You can look up. The speed at which Cooper's collapsed. Far more than they could flee with. And the worst part. The road ahead is getting narrower. It also makes it necessary for everyone to run in a line. It's just at times like these. Such a form is undoubtedly a test of human nature. Come to think of it, Qingling is also angry. He kicked Hong Daguang. The fat man flew out of the distance, and then stabilized his body and continued to run. He knew he deserved it. But this will Qingming jump to the team. He didn't know such a time. What else can Qingming do? And now they're running all the time. It doesn't seem to be able to do anything either. At this time, Zhao Jia was the first to notice that there was a light in the distance. That should be the end of this eternal journey. Seeing this, the day was even more riveting. Pushing the grand robe of light that was about to be exhausted. The channel is too narrow. Seeing that everyone behind him was so anxious that they jumped to their feet. But they didn't find out. The one who was originally at the back suddenly kicked in back. This is a great force. Force to make the front of everyone. We're all squeezed into arhats. Everyone felt the power coming from behind them. I didn't have time to look back. That's it. An extremely strange gesture rushed out. Meanwhile, the corridor behind him also completely collapsed. It is clear that they survived. Just make sure it's safe here at the same time. But they didn't have time to rejoice. Because of that kick just now, it's definitely Qingling who was helping them. But now he is buried alive in the swimming lane. Xiaojia, and the film can't think about it. It's crazy. Pulling at the hole that had been completely sealed. This scene also made Hong Daguang completely stunned. Huashan Shenlong. That would have become the future of the rivers and lakes. The guys of the heroes of the previous generation. But because of his own momentary mistake, he fell. How does such a reality make him accept? The corners of his eyes trembled. Tears poured out uncontrollably. Why Huashan Shenlong? But his roar didn't stop. The hole suddenly burst open. Look closely. Qingming can really rush out of this kind of place. What an incredible power this is. It's just that Hong Daguang doesn't have time to think about it now. The whole person was immersed. The joy that this guy is still alive. If it weren't for the sudden pain of my own bone misalignment, he really almost forgot. A good thing that I did. I think you must have a lot to say. But things in this world. If it can be solved in a few words, then there will be no war. That's right, so, let's beat me up first. That's it. How miserable Hong Daguang's next picture will be. Just look at the expressions of a few people. Meanwhile, deep in the tomb on the other side, the Wu-Tang clan has come a long way. They relied on the Great Elder to open the way. Although there are many dangers along the way, but all of them were overbearing by the old way's domineering force. It's broken. Now him. Completely to the medicine immortal from 1,000 years ago. There is a new understanding. No matter how much people praised him in his previous life. Now it seems, this man is definitely a sinister and vicious person. And now the situation is very unfavorable for them. He could feel it. The people behind them were about to catch up with him. Everything is about to get completely out of control. Not only did these people not guard against each other, even chose to join forces temporarily. The whole thing is so weird. Could it really be that the kid from Huashan did it deliberately? Come to think of it, he immediately cut off these thoughts. Now the priority is to stop the pursuers behind them. Thereupon, he ordered his junior disciples to lead most of his disciples to stop and fight. It's really dazzling. And the other two disciples sped forward. It's clear that he's done, even at the expense of everything. All of them have to prepare to win the mixed Yuan Dan. However, they didn't go far. There was a lot of glint in front of him again. It was a dazzling sight that soon found out that it was a poisoned arrow. This time, it also made the great elder's anger towards the medicine immortal even stronger. But wait for him to resist this wave of traps. Everyone froze. But that's the purpose. It's crazy. On those things, I don't feel any anger at all. Damn it, he even made these kings not even die at peace. Perhaps, the medicine fairy. I really don't know under the name what it represents. But if it goes on like this, maybe, there really is no one who can leave here alive. Meanwhile, the other side, Hong Daguang complained there with a bulging head. I am also an elder. Seeing this, Qingming still wanted to go up and continue to come a few times. But let him be like that. All the while beating up a guy who looked a little longer. I always think it's still a little weird. Interestingly, Hong Daguang's recklessness just now. It seems that his little brothers have complaints. Listen to them complain. I met such a helmsman. This feeling of physical and mental exhaustion. It was still very painful for him. After a while, the uncle finally sobbed. Repented of his mistakes. So far. Eventually, everyone began to look at the chamber. It's obvious. There doesn't seem to be any sign of anyone passing by. Just when Yongdao collapsed, Qing Ling found that there was another fork in the road. The people in front should all go from there. It seems that there is no other way now. Let's move on. Follow me. And uncles, you're messing around with things. You see, I don't chop off your hands. I won't be called Xingling. In this way, the green spirit came to the closed door. Push a little harder. The door was pushed open a crack. The smell of blood wafted from behind the door. The recent clarity is clearly consistent. But for now, they can't stop there. So he slammed the door open. Behind the door is a cave-like passage. The only difference is, it is much wider than the previous corridor. However, after what has happened before, they don't dare to take it lightly. The pace of progress is still very neat. To say that the only thing that is not quite harmonious, you can always hear some voice behind you. After several reminders did not stop, Qingming was also a little irritable. But when he asked, what you get, however, all said they didn't make any noise. All of a sudden, things got weird. Until the voice came again. Qingming realized that it seemed to come from the top of his head. Wait until everyone looks up. Only then did I find out that I don't know when. There was already a black cloud above their heads. A large patch of scarlet eyes. Now they finally understood. The reason why this passage is so wide. It turned out to be because of the breeding of a large number of vampire bats. Seeing this Qingming, he breathed a sigh of relief. Just hurry over, everybody. Don't alarm these brutes. Naturally, there is no danger in thinking about it. However, during the day, it always feels a little strange. He'd heard of vampire bats before, too. But this is the first time I've heard of it. His eyes are red. At the mention of this, Qingling finally remembered. These seem to be spiritual creatures from Yunnan. It's called Moro vampire bat. It is said that they were bitten. It will suck up the blood, turned into a dry corpse. And they're all huge. The epidermis is also unusually hard. Ordinary knives and guns can't do anything with them. Even if it's a peerless master. It's also hard to resist the will. Qingling is reminiscing. The rest of the people had already run away. He was also a little speechless when he saw this. Why did these guys just leave themselves behind? It's slipping away. I was just about to scold 2 sentences. But suddenly a fierce one. The group of guys above had noticed themselves. He pounced on Qingling. Seeing this, he couldn't stand such a hunt. While running, he scolded the demon of the medicine fairy. I don't know what he has in his head. Senior brother in charge. If that guy is in the fairy world, you're going to give me a beating up. If you can't beat it, call them all. The brothers and sisters went up together. It's just that their speed is compared to that of these brutes. It's still a big difference. I saw a bat about to pounce on me. Qingling subconsciously punched it. Although, the bat was indeed beaten by him. But his iron was as hard. It's still a green spirit. I almost broke my bones. So, others were not so lucky. The bat still has paralyzing poison in its mouth. Hundreds of these things. Now they are almost all surrounded. Soon, Hong Daguang was also bitten off a piece of meat. To say that his martial arts are actually not weak. After all, the 8 immortals of the Beggar Gang can also be regarded as a family martial artist. But when he was lucky, only to find out, the dodge speed of these beasts is also very good. Is this the existence of a spirit creature? And these monsters seem to smell blood. It's starting to get even more exciting. What should I do with this amount? Even if I try my best to stop the food. But it goes on like this. We're doomed. Huashan Shenlong. Can you think of a way? At this point, Qingling is also a big head. I saw him rush into the air. With a thud, he drew his sword. Suddenly, the cold light became a golden ray in the darkness. The boy tries to help his friends out of danger. In the end, he has completed 10 layers of skill, performed the plum blossom sword technique. Brilliant petals in the surprised gaze of the old beggar. Catching, however, the power of this sword. But the current Qingming can't be used all the time. Thankfully, the southern Xinjiang bats seem to be feeling the danger. For a while, it didn't come as turbulent as it did just now. That's what it used to be. Huashan plum blossoms that have disappeared in the memory of the world. It was in front of my eyes again. It's really the same as before. Wait until everyone comes to their senses. Only then did I find that the group of spirit beasts seemed to be. I am afraid to see this. Qingling didn't dare to stay. Beckoned everyone to leave quickly. It's just that Hung Dagwang understands. Just that miraculous swordsmanship. How incredible it is. I think it would not have been for intimacy. He died here a long time ago. And his so-called experience in the rivers and lakes. In the face of a real crisis. It's child's play. And again, Uncle, are you here to play? Anachronistic sounds. Qingling Temple saw through the old beggar's thoughts. But now they are still in the tomb. And wait for the road ahead. Take them as far as they are concerned. It is also a reef and a dangerous shoal. To add insult to injury. At this time, some of the little beggars were already physically exhausted. Seeing this clear spirit, there was no urgency before. This made Hung Dagwang obviously stunned. And Qingling's answer was very simple. People were injured. Of course you need a rest. Such is the image of a young man in the eyes of an old beggar. It's getting more and more confusing. He's such a calculating guy. At such a time, people come first. If it really delays Rodan. I'm afraid, however, Qingling at this time didn't care about Hung Dagwang's thoughts. He could clearly feel the murderous aura ahead. Either that or a large-scale battle has already begun. Either that or someone has fallen into the trap. Got entangled in something. In this building. But other traps are hidden. It's hard to fathom. If it's as difficult as the Moro vampire bats from now on, I'm afraid I can't handle it even by myself. The safest at the moment. Or let everyone save every piece of energy. As for Xiao Jiethe, although the foundation is good, but at this time, the mental tension comes with the exhaustion. I'm afraid it's no less than those old beggars. Nebula, aren't you tired? What's so tiring about this? Know that this is just the beginning. Something like sword grabber. If you really have the intention to set a trap, far from it. Stop that kind of means. Brother, you remember. Although I don't know why I want to grab the sword without a trace in the first place. But at the moment, this situation, definitely not one. I want to make it easy. Do what you have left behind in your legacy. And for the human heart, even if you pride yourself on knowing someone very well, occasionally, it will show a completely unfamiliar side. Not to mention such a guy from 200 years ago. At this point, Yin Zhong was afraid of cold. But there is no denying it. The meaning of Qingming. For them, there is really no need to consider the intentions of the medicine county. Although, I always feel that there is another deep meaning behind the tomb. But even so, it is indeed impossible for us to understand his intentions. Just obediently put down the mixed yuan pill, and fade away to be stupid. Everyone finally set foot on the road again. However, there are many restrictions due to underground buildings. In Qingming's view, they're also coming to the end. The only problem now is probably that there must have been someone else in that shot. Inevitably, it will be a fight. It's a pity that poison is poisonous. So many goose eggs the size of a night pearl. After the danger of the square. Now even Qingming doesn't dare to dig it easily. If it weren't for someone called Hanako, I'm sure I've taken it all with me. Hear this. Hung Dagwang still wanted to quibble. In exchange, it was a resentful look from the young man. I will never forget this hatred. That's it. The group finally came to the next secret room. Look up. This is even bigger than a cave of the previous route of spirit beasts. Unimaginable. Build such a space underground. Is it really within the reach of manpower? Just as he was thinking about it, there was a sudden sound behind him. The door that was just opened. At this moment, it turned into a dead end with a bang. That's it. It doesn't seem like a good thing to think about. And just now patronized inside. What the hell is this strong smell of blood in the air? Roughly speaking, there are at least 20. All the people were slaughtered. They are Deluo Sword, Shuli Axe, Shandong Quicksword, Light Sword Scholar. The 3 demons even have a knife sharpening Zhao Mingshan. What the hell did you guys do? Zhao Mingshan, I thought. At least you and Deluo Jian still know the severity. Unexpectedly, will actually attack innocent heroes from all walks of life. Who Shibi? It turned out to be a red rail. Have you forgotten? Jiang Hu rules, guilty of guilt. But it is also a sin to covet treasures. Now that they have a lust for treasures, that's the sinner. How can you say that you are innocent? Just think about it. If only I could get a magic weapon here. The strength will inevitably go to the next level. Outside then, I can do more chivalrous things. Isn't it? Don't pretend to be any of you beggars. Well, come here. Isn't it possible that this situation was not expected? I have to preach with a righteous and awe-inspiring appearance. It's really brazen. Hear this. Hong Daguang could no longer hold back the anger in his heart. This is an act of human life. Even in the struggle of the rivers and lakes. It was also a disaster that provoked a bloody struggle between forces. What's more, you are deliberately squatting. Wanton slaughter. Alright, you're all dying anyway. There is no benefit or harm in talking too much. Hong Daguang also understands that this group of people is extremely difficult to deal with. However, a quick glance after a week. But a desperate discovery. All the roads from which they came have been completely blocked. So far, only the path behind them is viable. In other words, Hung Hanging Pole is now in this situation. It is the deliberate result of grabbing the sword without a trace. And we're just following his wishes. Hear this. Hong Daguang also understood that he had no way out. Mobilize internal strength. I plan to take my disciples to fight for their lives. Fortunately, he also cleared the disparity in strength between the two sides. Forced. Now I also have to ask the disciples of Huashan. Advance and retreat with it. And during the day, they are already young chivalrous. This would not even think of standing idly by. See this group of bastards who have been famous in the rivers and lakes for a long time. I couldn't help laughing. A cow is not a tiger. This is also clear to Hong Daguang. This group of bastards is placed in any sect. Will not be weaker than those disciples of the generation who have become a climate. And they Viking schemes. Except for fleeing for fear. I am thinking about Xingming. The voice with a little impatience suddenly came. Have you had enough of arguing? Just now you said that the rivers and lakes are ruthless. Right, then I'll show you now. What is true ruthlessness and beauty? I don't know why. Zhao Meishan's discovery of Octavia. His body was trembling unconsciously. But how is this possible? That hairy boy. It doesn't seem to exude anything special. But the moment he drew his sword, my whole body seemed to be warning me. Luojian, we'd better not underestimate that child. Hearing this, the man obviously didn't take it to heart. Reputation and greed had already taken over his brain at the moment. Until he came to the Qingling. He didn't notice anything unusual. Ah, you say you're going to show us what true ruthlessness is. It's really arrogant. With a blinding light swinging out, the Luo Jianzhong found out that something was wrong. The young man in front of him only relied on the fragile sword body, easily defused his own slash. And it seems that this guy is very comfortable. How is this possible? Under the handover of hand, the more the man hits, the more frightened he becomes. At this point, he no longer dared to be careless. Full of true energy, with the power of the giant sword, he slashed towards Qingming. And yet this scene, but it was not on the young man's immature face, make the slightest ripple. On the contrary, in the next second when his eyes became more and more cold, the Luojian only felt that his gaze was spinning for a while. His head and his great sword-wielding arms. It's already there, hovering in the air. Look at the zero again. It seemed that the scene just happened to him. It's just a normal picture. However, the strength of the great Luo sword. It was clear to those present. It can take his life like crushing an ant. Not to mention how high the martial arts will be. That's just the means. It can no longer be described as a Taoist. It's like a killing god. This also made several people completely put away their little giant hearts. Although it is a loss of identity. But they don't want to die here even more. Soon, several people unanimously decided to encircle and suppress the people. Come to think of it, Fong Kai de Luo sword's attack. Qingling didn't even breathe for half a minute. This shows that this kid Huashan is conserving his physical strength. And if this thing gets out the word, it will surely be ridiculed by the world. But self-esteem for these things. It only makes sense when you're alive. Isn't it clearer and clear? This was the first time he had taken a human life since his rebirth. This is a place of malice. Also since his rebirth. Set foot on the battlefield in the truest sense of the word. There are 7 enemies in total. And I had to conserve my strength to the fullest. Get rid of them. It can be seen. They're not stupid donkeys either. Now I'm going to besiege myself. Should it be said or not? The daytime was exciting. You guys' way of survival. You have to be thick-skinned, right? It was clear that he was provoking the other party. But he understood. Even if Qingming feels that he is in the way, there's no way he's going to be watching from the sidelines. After all, there is no uncle in the world who looks at the loss of his life. And the reason for not doing anything yourself. Hear this. Yin Zhong, Xiaojie and Lu Yixue also all stood up. This is a bit of a big head. I'm talking about you little kids. The current situation. It's not something that can advance and retreat together with a wave of righteousness. Do you have to cut off your hands and lose your head to wake up? Yes, here. This is the day when he said solemnly. I know they're strong, but if only because of these. We've been hiding behind you. So, Huashan may only live under your wings forever. Watch you overcome the obstacles. Now we may indeed be a drag on you. But if we can fight with you, then one day, we can be your help, too. So even if I die, I won't sit idly by. Hear this. Qing Ling was silently silenced by this little ghost. He's right. If they want to mature, this kind of battlefield is the best ripening agent. And for the growth of Huashan disciples, even if it's something I can easily solve, it should also be left to them to deal with. I understand that, but what to say? In my heart, I still want to shield them from these dangers. Although I have never had children. But maybe that's what parents want. I'm talking ahead. Even if you're dying, I won't help either. Hear this. Xiao Jie seems to be floating. Don't worry, I didn't expect you to help at all. Don't you think too much of yourself? Yuba found out at this time. Everyone was looking at him with pity. Gather the senior brother. We'll have a chance to talk about it alone in the future. Half a day. The corners of Qingming's mouth finally rose uncontrollably. It's a bit strange right now. I didn't feel reassured at all. Instead, I feel more stressed. But it's a cult guy. Senior brother, let's go. This time you have to leave my enemies to me. Senior brother Qingming. Let's go, junior brother. Let those guys see the power of Huashan. It's weird. At that time, Huashan had obviously disappeared. No matter how hard I try. The years that can never be recovered. But now go. We're going to smash the heads of those guys. Just like that, there was a rage during the day. Roar took the lead. Senior brother in charge. Senior brother, did you see it? He is still here in the former Huashan. The little Hanako were still stunned. Give me an insight into these guys. What is the chivalry of our beggars? Soon the crowd was in a group. Hit the giant axe. It's always cool during the day. On strength. He couldn't beat the other in any way. That's when I chose to dodge. While looking for opportunities to fight back. Soon he found a flaw in the other party. It's just obvious. This one doesn't seem to hurt the point. Instead, it made the other party even more angry. And Xiao Jie is on the Shandong Express. It also showed an extraordinary speed. It's a pity. His inertia became his biggest flaw. It's just a blink of an eye. He has become the other party's bag. With a loud bang, the penetrating power of Shandong Express was all leaked. Xiao Jie, calm down. Let's go together. This scene was originally nothing in the hands of the Express. But their cooperation is very tacit. Just look at the appearance and practice martial arts. It is estimated that the cooperation time will be less than 10 years. But the strength they showed. But it's like a companion who has decades of experience in cooperating. Where the hell did these little kids come from? Hell, when will this sword stop? His attacks seem to be never-ending. I don't have the slightest room to fight back. When did Huashan become so strong? Soon the hands of the fast sword seem to become a little unstable. And this scene is also keenly perceived in the film. Plus the embarrassed appearance of the other party. He's pretty sure it's going to be a great opportunity. Don't hesitate to see this in the picture. A sword swinge. In exchange for a sneer. You guys are working well together, though. But you've missed your last chance. The little kid see this. Zhao Jie had already found out that something was wrong. Shouting brother. Care can be done at the same time. From the amazing piercing power of the Express. Is already walking towards the shadow. However, to their surprise. That force is forced to generate 90 degrees. Throw it to the other side. Take a closer look. That's when they found out. It seems to be another sword aura. Neutralizes his attacks in midair with precision. Then came the familiar scolding. I've said it all. Don't take it lightly. You're still careless. Why don't you know how to listen to people's advice and eat enough? It turned out that Qingming was dealing with the remaining few people at the same time. He is still using his sword chi to help them from time to time. Avoid a fatal blow from your opponent. He was beating and scolding at the same time. If you die here. But no one will applaud your sacrifice. You know. I said I'd do it myself. You're so annoying. This guy's nagging. It sounds a little different than usual. I always feel that he is happy. Meanwhile, Hong Daguang also rushed up with the beggars to help the disciples. His martial arts are not weak. It will. Is even more desperate to help him deal with the remaining few people. But this scene, in Qingming's view, I really don't think things are getting more troublesome. Just thinking about Hong Daguang, a few people had already rushed forward. And Qingming finally discovered something unusual. In the middle of the crowd in the distance, alone not only did not do anything, even the senses of his whole body. Bet on yourself. Even if it's a mess right now, it doesn't seem to have been affected in the slightest. Funny guys, I'm afraid he will be power. And Zhao Mingshan at this time, one thing was clear to him. To get out if you're alive, you have to get rid of this monster first. It was also as Qingming expected. the moment he made a move. It's full of true chi. But to Qingming's surprise, although he did block his attackable, but he can't be unloaded by himself. It's like a violent and heavy bag. On wrists, even the internal organs seem to be churning. It's weird. With his internal strength alone, it's simply not enough to explain the weight of his sword. It's a determination to do whatever it takes, and the obsession with staying alive, combined with that all-or-nothing share, made him show his combat power exponentially. At this point, Qingling had no choice but to avoid the edge as much as possible. After all, such combat effectiveness cannot last long. If it can consume his stamina, Qingling was also happy to see it. However, Zhao Meishan is not stupid. He quickly sensed Qingling's intentions. Thereupon, he picked up the tempo of his attack a few points again. This also caused Qingling to no longer have time to dodge. One blow down, the boy endured it firmly. From Zhao Meishan's heavy strength, with a loud bang, everyone pinched a cold sweat for Qingming. This also completely dispelled Qingming's original thoughts. Indeed, it will be expanded like this. I'm afraid that my physical exertion will be even greater. And Zhao Meishan at this time knows it well. If you want to win, you can't give the other party a chance to straighten out. Seeing that he succeeded in one blow, he immediately sent his trick. The sword is like a song in his hands, like a rushing river. Fortunately, at this time, Qingming no longer intends to stay. Petals appeared out of thin air beside him. The sword came to a halt as he dodged backwards. And the instant charge is completed. The pruned sword is like a flame against the wind, straight towards Zhao Meishan's sword skills. Only in a split second, Zhao Meishan's pace of progress. It was stopped by the plum blossom wrap in the sky. At this time, he was surprised to discover own knife skills. It was being eaten away by the other party at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a New York minute, his whole body was already in tatters. At this point, he lost his combat power. But this is the battlefield. Clearing zero didn't give him a respite. With the plum blossom petals falling in pieces, the blade of the plum blossom stream pierced through him. Look again. Clearing zero and plum blossoms have long been integrated. And Zhao Meishan used his last breath of strength to look back. Until I hear the affirmation from Qing Zero. Only then did the corners of his mouth slowly raise. I got his approval. This scene, so that almost everyone is unrecognizable. Especially the three demons. We don't have a chance of winning. The thought grew wildly in his mind. If it was originally this kind of treasure hunting, choosing the right camp can be the difference between success and failure. So now he is in the camp. It should be the strongest team other than the Wudong sect. And obviously they went all the way. But until now, the appearance of these guys, it's different. These guys are completely different from everyone else. Trust between them. It's me who was in any sect before. I've never seen anything before. We have no chance of winning this battle. Now I have to escape. Now I see that the Prime Minister is divided into 3 groups. Wu-Tang clans. Pursue the Wudong faction. And then there's it. If only I could escape from here. Then join forces with the people in front of you. That's what comes to mind. Qingling glanced at him from afar. The glint in his eyes seemed to see through it. For a moment, the 3 demons immediately stopped hesitating. Flee for the road. In his opinion, no matter how strong the other party is, it doesn't matter. In this world, after all, it's not the strong who survive. It's the ones who survive who are the strongest. There are more people ahead. In addition, his light skills are outstanding. If he could, he didn't have to wait for his thoughts to fly. Qingling unexpectedly appeared in front of him. You're shameless. With a clang, the 3 demons were already at full strength by the green spirits. Kicked back. Half stupid him they fought with this group of people. It also ended definitively at the cost of 0 casualties. And when cleaning the battlefield, there was a sign in the movie. When you started, I didn't even notice it. It turned out that his whole body was trembling. This is completely different from jousting. The slightest miss can cost you your life. And this strong sense of oppression, it also made him see the wind even heavier. Judgment has also become more sluggish. It turns out that this is actual combat. We're even half as strong as we normally would. I can't play it. We defeated the Shandong Kuaijin forest. If it is passed back to Huashan, it's bound to be a big shock to the door. But also because of the existence of this alien. Let's feel our martial arts. It's a real mess. The 2 side. The day comforted them. Relatively speaking. He also has actual combat experience. This situation, not being able to play to your full strength is the norm. So the 2 don't have to be presumptuous. It's their own strength, demonstrated in real combat. It's your true strength. The 2 of them are humbly taught. Suddenly a ghost behind him during the day. Qingling is high-spirited, simple and straightforward. Grow up, just like me. In the end, except for the 2 who fought with Qingling, everyone else survived. Although, I also want to finish them off with a sword during the day. But now it seems that he is not ready to hurt people's lives. But if I hadn't stepped up at that time, I guess Qingming has already killed them all. Although it is a murderer, people always kill them. But now it's not too bad. For Qingling, if everything comes according to the way he used to be, then he will never be able to jump out of the troubles of the past. What really needs to change? It was him with the whole Huashan, but occasionally rely on their group of imps. It feels good too. Anyway, are you ready? Peter, let's go fight those guys in Wudong together. Meanwhile, Wudong's side finally cleared all the medicine stones. Although everyone is embarrassed, but what they care more about is, why did that medicine fairy make such a disgusting monster? Nishixing glanced behind him. Only then did it be discovered that Jin Hyun seemed to be injured. Originally, it was inevitable that people in the martial arts would be hurt. But what happened now is too evil. I can't help but be more cautious if I don't choose. Check it out. Only then did the wound of the needle and thread be discovered. All that spilled was black blood. I guess these are corpse poisons. If left alone, I'm afraid the needle and thread will be lost. It's not just this arm. Thinking of this, he jerked down on the wound of the needle. The whole body is full of true qi. In an instant, the internal force of his whole body was enveloped. Follow the meridians at the wound. Forcibly pulled out the poisonous gas in the needle and thread. But this scene made him a little flattered. After all, such a thing that consumes internal strength. It's obviously a critical time to grab the treasure. But he still has to be a second-generation disciple for him. To waste your own energy. Just thinking about it. The corpse poison in the needle and thread has been completely removed. And his wound at this time was also lifted by the elder by the way. The original blood flowed endlessly. In the view of the void, it is important to get the divine weapons and elixirs in the sword shrine. But it can't compare to one of my Wudong disciples' arms. So let's go. I'm old though, but not weakly. This little thing can affect your combat power. As for the disciples who resisted the pursuers behind them, if you can't bring them all down, even if I go back, I'm afraid it will be a waste of time. Case, we need to hurry up. Go and get what you need to go. The only thing that cares me about now is, there was an extremely cold and domineering aura, filled with this road. Although it only appeared for a moment. But if it is a person who exudes such an aura of tyranny, join the pursuit of us. I'm afraid I just thought of it. The fellow behind him had already retreated to the mirror. Many unbearable mockery could be heard in the distance. And a little further back, some people have lost patience. Charging strength, he was about to blast away the Wudong disciples who were blocking the way. And this blow was clearly already murderous. This also forced the elder to stand up to the front alone. And the dispel see this. He hurriedly took his disciples, rushing towards the depths of the tomb. Fierce battles and traps. And the endless darkness that lies ahead and doesn't know what is hidden. If you keep wandering here, even I might have a demon in my heart. Now the only thing that can be called hope is that it's the pharmacist of Fonkai. Even if it's a medicine fairy, I want to refine such a terrifying monster. Nor will it be an easy task. I want to come to this level. It should be the deepest condensation of his malice. The saddest level. Other words, this very sinister wood is coming to an end. And the truth is not as expected. They soon saw the one ahead of them after they came down, brighter than ever. But they took 3 steps and made 2 steps. When you reach the so-called finish line as fast as you can, what I saw was a cliff. Fortunately, Susan's eyes soon found out. There is a protruding space in the middle of the cliff. And there's a small gap there. I think the final mixed Yuan Dan must be there. However, at this time, Susan was even more convulsive. The terrifying aura I had just felt. It's approaching here at an alarming speed. Disciples, climb quickly. You have to climb this cliff. But they just got on the front foot. The pursuers behind him had already arrived. Follow the line of sight of the Wudong disciples. Soon they also discovered the cliff. Of the gaps. It doesn't matter if it's the purpose of the trip or not. They all rushed up. In the Qingling group at this time, although it is approaching rapidly, but Xiaojie seems to be a little exhausted. Qingling was a little angry. It's obvious. He found out that Xiaojie didn't cultivate obediently on weekdays. I was planning to pack them up when I got back. Xiaojie felt a little sad in his heart. In his opinion, there are only guys like Qingling. I don't feel tired. That's it. It's not human. I really want to punch him. However, he couldn't hold back his complaints. I said the last sentence. When you look up, it seems that this is when I realized that something is not quite right. When I watched the drama again, Qingling was already holding his sword. Pressed against his back, he hurried forward. Let Xiaojie apologize. He couldn't even listen to half a word. The guy in front looked like he had stopped. In other words, they have reached the end of the road. And my membership list. Right there. If the Shaoxiang people of Wudong dare to touch my things, you guys try it. That's it. A few people quickly left Hong Dagwang far away. And he's going to be out of breath too. I really don't know how the physical strength of that group of people was trained. I saw that the little beggar complained to himself that he couldn't run. He also used violence to get them to hurry. However, in exchange for a kick from the little beggar. I wonder why I didn't use this trick. Soon Qingling and his party also came to the end. Sister Zhao finally didn't have to be held against by the long sword. The strength poured out all at once. When you come to the end, it looks like this last hurdle is actually a great climb. Everyone was stunned at first. Only then did ecstasy emerge. It's so easy, isn't it? It seems that the medicine fairy must have never been to our Huashan. At hell, the days were not wasted. You must know that the broken intestine cliff is 5 times higher than here. We have to climb several times a day. Today's Huashan disciple. Even if it's a cliff with no place to stay, we can also take a nap while crawling. And all that, thanks to that madman's training. Sisters, nephews, we're rushing like that. The people walked on this cliff as if they were on the ground. Soon it overtook many climbers. But it made others more and more anxious. Red-eyed, they don't care about 3, 7, 21. They all put their weapons in their hands, throwing towards the daytime several people, even if Qingming deliberately resists. But there are too many weapons. He alone could not shoot them all down. At that time, Hong Daguang also rushed over with people. He is well aware. I couldn't climb this steep cliff anymore. So he simply had a heartbeat. One by one with the little beggars, went to intercept this group of people for Qingming. And in this way, Qingming's pressure is also more than half less. They no longer have any scruples. Seeing that the people of Huashan climbed faster than they ran, the void is also extreme. Hurriedly used the Qing Palace to replace Yunzhong, the first to rush to the gap in the cliff. Seeing this, Qingling also scolded secretly. The Western word recipe is superb. He would never allow it. Anyone gets the membership before he does. That's all there is to it. Neither of them will let anyone, almost in midair, to fight. Kung Fu in the blink of an eye. The two of them came to this small gap. However, what caught Qingling's eyes? But it was full of hidden soldiers. Although it seems, the box in the middle, it should be the mixed Yuan Dan or Danfeng. But these are the magic weapons of hundreds of years ago. It seems that all of this tomb has been weathered. Didn't wait for the clear sound to be heard. The bearded umbrella next to him was the first to throw out the question. Your kid is Huashan Shenlong. Snatched the treasure map from Wuzhan. And then it made it so big that it got to this point. That's what you came up with. At your age, to be able to do that. Extraordinary indeed. I admit it. What you have done has truly exceeded my expectations. But that's the end of it. You go. I will not show mercy today. Even if you're only a third-generation disciple. If you dare to take another step forward, I'll cut off your head right away. Hearing this, Qingling laughed very presumptuously. It's scary. You now exude a murderous aura. It's completely different from what you said. You seem to be expecting me to do it. Why are you trying to get rid of me here? The void was a little surprised. Did you just show a murderous aura? Even I didn't notice it. This kid, if only it were just an ordinary smart teenager. Naturally, I don't think he's a threat. But when he actually appeared in front of my eyes, my mind has changed. This guy is dangerous. And the murderous aura that I just automatically exuded. Maybe that's what I really think. I can't think of my years of cultivation. Now it's been defeated by your boy. So, don't force me to do something moral. Get out of here. Hear this. Qingling's eyes showed something strange. In the midst of this kind of scuffle, it doesn't matter who lost their lives. There is no way to hold accountable. From the position of Wudong, it would be the best thing to get rid of here would be me. But this man repeatedly persuaded me to leave. Come to think of it, this is Wudong. The reason why it is still famous all over the world. Wudong is really Wudong. But even so, I'm not going to leave either. Toast without eating. I used to eat too much wine. To the disadvantages, Elder Wudong and Qingling immediately disappeared in place. The figures of the two kept flashing in the air. Just a few. The two of them had already clashed dozens of times in the space of breath. Seeing this, the left hand is charged. Take advantage of the moment when the two clash again. A palm blasted out, but this domineering power. Qingming just took it with one hand. The end of the borrowed army will rush to the void again. However this time, scattered but already exerted. A sword swinged. Qingming reacted immediately. This incomparably sharp sword aura. He had never seen it among the disciples of the Wudong sect. It's amazing. Where is this soft sword? Whose soft sword will cut people to death? Is he going to be serious? Seeing this, Qingming stepped on the void sword Qi instead. This kind of control of true Qi. Not even he could do it himself. So it seems. This kid can't keep it even more. Come to think of this. He simply poured the true Qi in the Dantian into the sword body. A mutation in style of swordsmanship. Seeing Qingming is also a clever. But the two were too close at the moment. He had no choice but to use his entire internal strength to resist this sword. Suddenly, the wind blew in the entire gap. Qingling's internal cultivation is no matter how strong he is now. It is impossible to surpass the depth of Elder Wudong. This also caused him to nearly faint in order to withstand the blow. But fortunately, the Zhong clan blocked the sword chi. If it weren't for the exaggerated traces of battle at this moment, Su San is really suspicious. I didn't converge just now. It seems that you didn't cheat by defeating Wu Zhenji. Who the hell are you, kid? Seeing that Su San did not intend to pursue, Qingming immediately kicked away the long sword and jumped back. Seeing this, Su San did not stop it. Instead, he spoke again. Although I Wudong forbade accepting disciples from other sects. But if you want, I can accept you as a Wudong disciple at any cost. With your talent, it is not difficult to recultivate the martial arts of Wudong. I can make you one of Wudong substitute disciples. It even makes you the head of the Queen of Wu. Hearing this, the elf was stunned at first. That's when I came to my senses. Are you crazy? Why did you come up with the idea of other sects? Okay, don't talk about it. Void is very incomprehensible. Wudong and Huashan. With the ingenuity of his green spirit, you won't know which of the two is better or worse. But in exchange, Qingling answered very seriously. I'm a man. I'm not interested in being an apprentice to someone weaker than me. And you're there. Remember what Wudong is. As long as there is my green spirit, it will definitely make Huashan the first in the world. And the disciples of Huashan at this time. Now I have run out of energy. Especially Xiaojia and Ingzhou. It's just daytime. At this time, I was even more worried that Qingming was alone with Shangwu as an elder. No matter how monster he is, you'll have to check it out. Anyway, there is a response. But it's clear. His worries were a bit unnecessary. Qingming, this will continue to hide the soldiers who have long been weathered. Shoot towards Susan. Although these weapons are now as brittle as cicada wings, it's not going to do much anymore. But because of this, Susan has a little carelessness. The momentary damage made him can't help but look back. A sharp sword that popped out of nowhere. What the hell is it? However, when he saw the plum blossom on the hilt of the sword, my heart immediately chuckled. Bad findings. In the next second, Qingming had already kicked in front of him. A solid blows. He kicked him out of the gap. Fortunately, the mustache is not vegetarian either. In midair, he adjusted his body. Soon it was back in the crack again. He looked at the patches of ice on the ground. Medicine Fairy, is this the result you want to see? People were blindfolded by treasures, then fall into the trap, kill each other along the way, until the depths of the earth are exhausted. See, but it is a weapon that has rusted and broken all over the ground. Are you trying to tease us who come after us? The Medicine Fairy is really not a good person. But what I ask for is different from theirs. I don't care about the gods. And Qingming also walked slowly to the box at this time. Void then understood. It seems that you are asking for the same things as I do. Hearing this, Qingming shook his hand and shook it commonly. Said a very strange thing. These things you want. Just take it. At this point, the two of them are charging again. At this time, Qingming no longer has any sense of fun. A little plum blossom appeared beside him. This scene is equally shocking to watch. He had already heard of Huashan's plum blossom swordsmanship. Qingming has 7 swords in his hand. It's even more dazzling. The plum blossom sword that followed. It gushes out like a waterfall. Suddenly, the entire gap was already flooded with plum blossoms. However, the sound of metal clashing was heard. Mom suddenly realized that something was wrong. The barrier formed by the Tai Chi sword. It had already appeared in front of the void, and the words that slowly came out of his mouth. It also makes the whole gap clearly audible. The original even the root. The root is the source of all things. Point too early to have nothing. Nothing, nameless. Everything in the world is divided into yin and yang. Yin and yang are for Tai Chi. Tai Chi will meet these 5 first-class superior martial arts. With previously undocumented. The poor imitation of the fur is different. The Tai Chi carved under this man's sword. It is very much in tune with his word. Soft and powerful. And in the eyes of Susan, this kid can make plum blossoms bloom at this age. If you let it grow, maybe Huashan will endanger Wudong's status in the future. Since it can't be enveloped, then he must be eliminated. And Qingling has to deal with this kind of martial arts. It wasn't easy for him either. But the good news is that no one will see it now. And now I should be able to do it. Making Wudong overcome rigidity with softness. For my Huashan martial arts, it can be a natural enemy. But that's about it. Even water can extinguish fires. But in the face of monstrous fire, the same will evaporate invisible. All things that are mutually reinforcing will be defeated by greater forces. This is the way of all things. Plum blossoms only flutter in the air. But there is also the way of the world. It is no longer possible for the Shime sword to defeat such a martial art. Then come on martial arts.